So task 3 in the week 3 workshop will introduce you to using the post method in a route. So unlike the get method where data is passed in the query string, the post requires an extra module to be loaded to access the data that is passed. So the module to load is called body parser. You will use npm to install the body parser module on your app. If you use the --save option, it will be added as a dependency in your package.json file. So body parser has a number of parsers available like JSON, raw, text, and URL encoded. So by using the app.use method, these parsers can be applied to all requests that come to the server and are processed before the route handlers. So as a as an example of the process that's happening with this particular exercise, our client will be making a request on the root level route on the server. The server will respond with the form, which will be shown to the client. When the client does a submission of that form, it will do an AJAX post request to the get data route on the server. The server will then respond to that particular route and send that AJAX data back to the client for it to do something with it. So a quick look at the jQuery AJAX syntax. So when calling the jQuery submit method on the form, remember to prevent the default submission or submit action of a form. So by default, whenever you submit a form, it will try and submit that form to the server, waiting for the server to respond and send stuff back. So it'll be a complete new reload of the form. So when we're doing this AJAX, we don't want the entire form or the entire page to be reloaded. We only want that segment of the page to be updated with the jQuery, with the AJAX data. So we need to call a function called prevent default in our submission request so that it stops the default action and lets us get on with just doing an AJAX request instead. So we're looking at the syntax of an AJAX call there. In this case, we'll be using a post type. We'll be passing JSON data back and forward. The location of the file of where or our route will be in our URL. The data that's coming or that we will send into the server will actually be coming from a variable that you'll create just before this AJAX call, which will create a JavaScript object which has the values of the form saved in that object. And then on success, we will do something with that. In the case of the example I'll show you in a moment, I was able to change the background color of the form area and display the data that came back from the server in what was an empty div below that. If there are errors, then we can also then do stuff on our page to present an error message. So in previous examples, we've been using a file name of index.js as the server. So it might make things clearer if we use a name of server.js for our node server. But just remember to enter this server.js as the entry point when you initialize your npm project. So when you do npm init and it goes through and asks you a list of questions, one of those will be your entry point. The default option is index.js. It might be easy if you can just change that to server.js. That way you're clear which file is your server and which other JSON or JavaScript files there are not. If you don't do it straight up, you can always change it later on by editing the package.json file. So having a look here at the form.html file. So it's a simple layout. We've created a form with a particular ID. We're going to be having a username and password that are collected, and we'll have a button there for the submission. And down below here, we'll find the empty div that I will then add the content from the response of our post query. So what this looks like on the server when you actually run it. So here I've already got my server running. Remember, as I mentioned it before, we could also run nodemon server.js. And this way it will sit there watching the server.js files. If there are any changes made to that, it will automatically restart the server, which makes things a little bit easier. Let's have a look at our login form here. So if we run the page, if we put in some information and submit, then it was saying that it did the post successfully. This was the email that was sent in. This was the password, and comparing it, it didn't validate against the default or the hard-coded version that we've tested for in there. And at the same time, I also made a background color change on this just so that we can easily highlight that this is a different page and we have done something different. We could have set this up to set a style on that, which would set the display property of this particular box to none, and that way it wouldn't display and all we would see on the screen is the information that we wanted.